closed at Annan due to a serious road traffic incident. In Thurrock, the A13 eastbound exit slip to the A1012 is experiencing approximately 10-minute delays, but normal traffic is expected by 9:15. Meanwhile, Surrey drivers face queues on the A30 eastbound between junction M25 and the A308, with return to normal conditions anticipated by 9:15. And on the trains, major engineering work causes disruptions at Liverpool Lime Street for Avanti West Coast services, while cross-country has significant delays between York and Darlington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Monday the 4th of May. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Christopher Hope and Miriam Pace.
Are we witnessing another Brexit betrayal? The Prime Minister seeks for closer ties with the European Union and a loan scheme for Ukraine as he lands in Armenia for a key global summit.
We're facing a war on two fronts, the Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household.
And over 500,000 households could be receiving more on benefits than workers on average salaries, despite the introduction of a benefits cap.
Britain's armed forces could be tight for cash as a former military chief warns we'll have new weapons until 2030.
And 10-year-olds are more likely to own a phone than throw a ball properly, a shocking investigation reveals. So, Chris, before the last election, lots of Brexiteers warned that a Labour government would want to get us closer to the EU to reintegrate us with the single market. Does seem to be what's happening.
It does, Miriam, but I think what's happening here is they're trying to do the kind of bits around the edges, but the key things of sovereignty, Brexit is about sovereignty, still remain, so a future government can withdraw from these arrangements arranged by Labour if it's not popular electorally. So no joining the customs union, that would rip up the trade deals with America and Australia and Canada, India. No re-entering the single market, we're told, and freedom of movement, not rejoining that, but I think that's the one that will be tested this year, probably allowed for under 30s.
Well, one of the things they do seem keen to do is to rejoin the single market for electricity, which would potentially help to stabilise prices if we were part of the kind of Europe-wide grid. But it wouldn't always be to our benefit. Sometimes we would end up exporting electricity back to the EU, and we'll have to pay €1 billion for the privilege of being part of their bigger fund. So I don't know if it's quite the saving the government thinks.
And that's how the interconnector works, and that's why they say, the government says pulling more oil and gas out of the North Sea won't help us because global prices will affect it. but I think many people do think that having more oil and gas, we can sell it into the world, is quite a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
if there's a shortage, surely it's better to fill the gap, whether it's national or international.
I think it's a big issue. I think as soon as the local elections are out of the way, the big focus will be on the next European Union reset meeting with the UK, what we give away with that. But I think Brexit isn't the issue which it once was. I don't think it's firing the same way. You never weirdly hear Nigel Farage ever talking about it.
No, that is true, and I think, well, you'll know with your political editor hat on, but the polling is not really that clear on it anymore. A lot of people who voted Brexit regret it, and of course a lot of people who didn't vote at the time because they were too young are not really interested in the issue. There's still absolutely some hardcore Brexiteers who are desperate that we maintain the democratic decision, and I think they're right.
And there's a big cost to rejoining. So I interviewed Matthew Elliott, the former CEO of Vote Leave. He thinks it's going to be I think it's like 20 billion or something to rejoin, because we lose out on the rebate that Thatcher negotiated. So,
well, I'm sure they'll try and punish us as well.
But there's a pay and join is the idea they're pushing, but whether we do it, I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, let us know what you think about this and all the other issues we're discussing today. Visit gbnews.com/your say. But first, your 60-second news update with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister is meeting with more than 40 EU leaders in Armenia, discussing whether to join a £78 billion loan scheme to support Ukraine in its war with Russia. Sir Keir Starmer says the move would support British jobs. Iran's armed forces are warning the US Navy against entering the Strait of Hormuz after Donald Trump announced it would start an effort to free stranded ships in the passage. A British tourist is being treated in intensive care in South Africa, and 3 other people have died after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. At least 10 people have been taken to hospital after a shooting at a lakeside party near Oklahoma City. Authorities are warning that number may rise as many make their own way there. And tens of thousands of cancer patients in England could soon benefit from a new 1-minute immunotherapy injection being rolled out on the NHS to replace a sometimes hour-long treatment. The Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit is warning UK food prices could be 50% higher by November compared with mid-2021 when the cost of living crisis started. You're up to date for now. I'll have a full roundup for you at 10 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News with me, Christopher Hope, and the great Miriam Cates.
Well, we've got lots to talk about today, Chris, and of course only 3 days until those big elections that we're very much, I don't want to say looking forward to, but intrigued by.
A lot more can be said after those elections.
Absolutely, that is true. Well, our top story today, the government has announced that it intends to start talks to join the European Union's £90 billion euro loan for Ukraine as it seeks to bolster support for Kyiv and deepen the defence ties with the bloc.
Our Prime Minister is in Armenia, where he will tell leaders at a European gathering in the capital, Yerevan, that Britain wants to work more closely with them.
Well, GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, is there and sent us this report.
Welcome to Armenia, where Europe meets Asia, and just 160 miles south of here is the border with Iran. If you go north, there's Georgia and then Russia. So we absolutely are sandwiched here between wars on 2 fronts. And those are the focus of European leaders here. The European political community has been meeting since shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine. It gets together all of the leaders of Europe, not just the EU, but focus very much on Ukraine always, but also now on what's happening on Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. But a little bit earlier, the Prime Minister was asked specifically what he's doing here that's going to make things better for people back home. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
We're facing a war on 2 fronts, the Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household in the United Kingdom. We can see that already in relation to the impact on energy. So it's vital that we work with international leaders on both fronts. So today I'll be discussing Ukraine and what more we can do to support Ukraine and make sure that we get the lasting peace that we need. And of course on Iran and getting the Strait of Hormuz open. We're working with European and other leaders on that. That will directly affect everybody back at home because that is impacting all of us, and it's vital that we do that work. In relation to the EU loan that we are discussing participating in, that is very good for Ukraine because it will give Ukraine capability that it desperately needs in year 5 of this conflict. It's very good for the UK because it'll be capability that leads to jobs in the United Kingdom, and it's very good for UK-EU relations.
So the Prime Minister's argument there that Ukraine support is still absolutely vital, but also if we get in on this EU loan scheme, it's going to bring British jobs to our defence industry, something which we very badly need. The Prime Minister met with President Zelensky yesterday, pretty much as soon as he got off the plane. Then this morning he had a meeting with key allies, President Zelensky, Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, President Macron of France, Italy's Giorgia Meloni, and so on and so forth. Then he had a meeting just with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and President Macron of France. We know that aside from work on the coalition of the willing, as they call it, for how we might support Ukraine after a ceasefire, France and Britain are also leading European efforts to work out how they could support demining the Strait of Hormuz after it is reopened. We've heard, of course, from President Trump, but the effects of that closure having a massive impact on all of us.
Catherine Forster, thank you. And I do think, Miriam, that as NATO gets weakened by the US, the EU is stepping up in a way which is maybe worrying for Brexiteers?
Well, the EU, Germany is stepping up, but we are not yet. That's one of the stories we're going to be covering today is lack of defence spending, isn't it? But,
Joining us now is Labour commentator Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, thank you for joining us on GB News. Do you worry about getting closer to the European Union? Is that betraying that vote that most of us voted for back in 2016?
Morning, Chris. Morning, Miriam. Actually, I'm happy. I'm happy, and I knew when this happened 10 years ago, at some point we would have no option, no choice, but to start getting closer back to sort of realigning our interests with Europe, because that's I mean, look at the way history has played out. Look at what is happening right now. The Ukraine war is entering its 5th year. The war in Iran there's no sign of ending there, and I think what we're going to see is like public opinion as well, more sort of looking towards Europe now than America or any other country, more and more.
I'm curious as to what you mean by look at how history has played out.
I mean, we're only talking a decade, but in the last 10 years, we've already seen the war in Ukraine. We've seen a constant threat of aggression from Russia, and Putin is not going to stop. I mean, I remember the first sort of year or so, and even I visited quite a few Eastern European countries at the time, Poland, Slovakia, and so on. And I just remember there was a constant threat of if today Ukraine, tomorrow it could be us. And that fear has not gone. I mean, now,
but I suppose the question is, why can't we cooperate with our European allies, as we have always done since the Second World War and as we continue to do through NATO? Why can't we cooperate with our European allies without signing formal agreements that, for example, we're required to pay €1 billion into a pot to be part of the shared investment fund?
Again, these are the things that nobody spoke about. I mean, 10 years ago when we were campaigning, obviously I was campaigning on the Remain side, and the Leave campaign was very slick and very kind of simplistic, way too simplistic now as we look back. And it was, nobody actually thought about what would actually happen. Majority of the people actually thought, we're never going to leave. This is our protest vote. And we want, we're going to win, but we want the margin between winning and losing to be narrower. Obviously, that completely backfired because then we
sorry to
lost.
interrupt you, Aisha, but I'm trying to get back to the point. Why would it be better for us now to have a formal agreement that costs us a lot of money rather than to continue to cooperate as we have been doing for the last 70 years?
Because, Miriam, we're no longer part of the original bloc. We had to leave because of Brexit.
But what difference does that make, for example? We led the response to Ukraine. We delivered a whole load of vaccines during the pandemic. What difference would it make to sign that piece of paper and hand over a load of British taxpayers' money?
Because, Miriam, the people at the table that we left are demanding that fee for us to re-enter, rejoin, re-sit at the table. So that, I mean, this is again, Chris, I was going to just say that had we known that the price of re-entering the arena, rejoining was X amount, I think lots of people would have thought about it in a different way. But I think because we were so focused on a couple of very narrow points, so the Leave campaign was focused, and lots of people thought, well, this is really simple, let's leave and it will be in charge and we'll have all this money for our own, own people. Again, the £350 million a week for the NHS, etc., did not materialise. And
no, it did. It's gone in, Aisha. The £350 million has gone in, plus more than that. So the money that we save for the membership has been soaked up by the NHS already. That's happened. What would you pay to rejoin the European Union? $1 billion, the Times say. Matthew Elliott, who ran the Vote Leave campaign, said it'd be $22 billion a year because after also we'd lose that the rebate negotiated by Margaret Thatcher back in the early 1980s. What's the price you would pay for rejoining? Because that's what it'll come down to.
Well, Chris, I would rather have not paid anything because I'd rather we had it left in the first place. And I just want to say, I mean, Margaret Thatcher played a blinder, and it's not often I agree with my Conservative counterparts, but I think she was fantastic. I think she was strong, and she basically stood her ground and did managed to negotiate a fantastic deal. And obviously that money, however much it's going to be, and it won't be cheap, it's not going to be cheap. And that's a shame, really, because as a school teacher, I want to see that money invested in schools. I want to see it invested in local communities. And obviously that money should be ours, and it would have been ours had we not left the EU 10 years ago.
Yes, and that's the worry, isn't it? That's the debate, I think. Almost certainly it'll come down to money, as it did back then. And is it worth rejoining for $1 billion a year, $22 billion a year? What's the price of... And it's a trading arrangement, so the government have to convince us that if we are part of the European Union in a greater way, the trading will help us and make us all better off financially.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. I mean, look, there's lots of contracts. There's a £400 million military contract as well, and that's just the beginning. So in many ways, you are paying, and I do hope it's closer to the 1 billion and not 22 billion mark, but you are paying to be part of a club that then rewards you for being part of that club, which has always been the case. Well, and obviously your package mentioned the higher living costs and food prices going up. I'm seeing this in real time. I'm going to the shops, I'm buying cat food, I'm buying food.
But Aisha, inflation is a Europe-wide phenomenon. Food inflation is a Europe-wide phenomenon. We're subject to the same global economic winds as they are, whether we're in or out of the EU. And why do we want to be part of this club? I mean, take a look at the example of Hungary, for example. Hungary built a fence to keep illegal immigrants out because that's what the people wanted. They were fined €1 million a day. Why would you want to be part of a club that fines you for protecting your own borders?
Obviously, Hungary notwithstanding, I mean, look at the cost of living. I was about to say that, you know, it's not just the food prices. We're talking about energy costs as well. And in many ways, Europe has access to cheaper energy. We have to transport the energy as well. So we have to pay an extra. We don't obviously have access to. I'd like to see more access to our North Sea reserves. And I know that's going to go against a lot of what Ed Miliband and the sort of net zero voices are saying. But unfortunately, until we do, we are reliant completely on, significantly, on European energies, sort of gas, electricity, and so on. So these are the small things that might not seem much, but they are adding costs every single day to the budgets of families across England, up and down. And obviously now the war in Iran is just continuing.
I'm not sure that's Brexit's fault.
Closely.
These are all worries. and problems, but I'm not sure you can blame Brexit for them. But
I think Aisha will have to leave it there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we are. Well,
Aisha.
Yeah.
Aisha Ali Khan, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Well, there may be plenty of arguments for rejoining the EU, but none of them are it.
Well, you know, more trade might work, but the cost of it could be the problem.
But none of the problems she named were anything to do with Brexit. Anyway.
Well, some
Moving
were,
on.
I think. Okay, anyway, still ahead. Now, a former top military chief has warned that Britain will have no new weapons until 2030, 4 years away.
Well, up next, are Brits being disincentivised to work? You won't believe how much some families are raking in benefits.
But first, if you're in search for some holiday sun, here's a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The risk of heavy showers and thunderstorms across central parts of the Mediterranean the next few days. Some heavy rain across Madeira as well on Tuesday. Sunny spells for the Canary Islands. Southern parts of Spain and Portugal seeing sunny spells, but across the north and into France, northern Italy, the risk of some thunderstorms. But sunny spells in Greece and Turkey as well. And temperatures are lifting after a cool few days here and staying pleasant over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are we all having a good St George's Day? So much celebration here in Gravesend, but I'm delighted to speak now to some of the faith leaders in the community. Jim, we're going to start with you. It's your church, after all. What does this event mean to you?
Well, absolutely. We've got so much diversity and hospitality and inclusivity here today. We've been celebrating the life of St George. All this energy! And the parade through our town, just to show how united we are here in our town and nationally as well. It's been a wonderful celebration, really great.
Lots of people have been coming together to celebrate today.
Fantastic. Every year we all come out, you know, we have different faiths here, different communities, but one thing for sure is Gravesend is known for our communities to come out and support each other in these events. So fantastic turnout today. We had a parade at the weekend, we had over 15,000 people turn up to that parade, and today it's St George's Day. Fantastic, everyone. Enjoy the day.
Absolutely. And Maurice, it's so sunny today, and this is now the 20th year that this parade has been on.
It's inspirational for those around the country. We can see the togetherness, and it shows you that we as a united kingdom make a great Britain, and this is what we are all here to celebrate. And we must all enjoy not just the day, but the fact that St George is a unifying figure for us as a country.
And Ansar as well, this is just the most joyous occasion.
Absolutely wonderful to be here as usual. Again, lovely to see all the different faith communities coming together. Lovely to see. It's a great day as well for today as well. Compared to last year, it wasn't great, but today is wonderful. And again, wonderful to see so many different children and different faith groups coming together and working in Gravesham.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, it's 8 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, over 500,000 households could be receiving more on benefits than workers on average salaries, despite the introduction of a benefits cap.
We're joined now by the Shadow Minister for Policy Development, Neil O'Brien. Neil O'Brien, welcome to GB News. This is a lot of money to pay for people who aren't working.
No, it's an incredible sum. I think that many people will be surprised that so many families are getting such large payouts. So, for example, there's about 600,000 households who are getting more than the average person earns by working. Their take-home pay, on average, is about 32,000 a year, and there are 600,000 families who are getting more than that in benefits. There are people who are getting humongous payouts. There are about 16,000 families where they're getting nearly twice the average take-home pay. They're getting 60,000 a year just in benefits. And actually, if anything, these are slight underestimates because we know that the figures that they are based on don't capture all of benefit spending. So it's, to my mind, just really strengthens the case for us going back to proper welfare reform, and in particular looking again at the thing you just mentioned, the household benefit cap, which was supposed to limit these massive welfare payouts. But over time, people have learned to work their way around.
Neil, can I ask one thing? I don't know the answer. Is that taxed? Is that a net of tax, or is that a gross figure, 32,000?
Most of these benefits are not taxed. This is sort of net of tax. So that's why I was comparing it to your take-home pay after tax.
So, Neil, can you explain why this benefits cap does not apply then? How are people getting around the cap?
So initially, when it was brought in, it did seem to be limiting spending, and for quite a long time, the number of people on who were getting really large payouts seemed to be either falling or flat. But what's happened is, because of the way it works, if you get certain benefits, then if anybody in the family gets these particular benefits, then the whole household is immediately exempted from the cap. So, for example, perhaps you could work and perhaps your other half could work, but if your child is getting DLA, perhaps because they've got ADHD or something like that, perhaps they've got a statement at school, then your whole family is exempt from the cap. Or even if you can work and your other half is on some sort of benefit that exempts you, you're now expected to go out and work. And that's why we want to do two really big things to change this. The first is we're going to say that this cap is going to apply to any household where there's somebody who is not working who could be working, or whether they could be working more. So if, let's say at the moment the rule is if anyone in the house is working 16 hours a week, just 16 hours a week, then the whole household is exempted, the whole family is exempted. So you could have another half who is just sat there at home. They could be working, but because you are working just 16 hours a week, the whole family is exempt. Do you think that's wrong? Or you could be, let's say you're a single person, you've got no kids, you're working 16 hours a week. The benefits office, they would expect you to be working 35 hours a week at least, and yet you can be doing that and still get around this cap. But the biggest single thing, and the government are being very, very evasive about this, is this point that if you get any of these benefits, if anyone in the household claims one of these benefits, then the whole household is exempt. And we would turn that around and say, look, if you've got to benefit this for additional costs, if you're getting PIP, for example, then we can exclude that from the cap. But it doesn't mean that the whole household is immediately exempted and you can just claim as much as you want. We've just got to get away from this era of unlimited benefits, because it's just, we've got to have a system that is...
We have to leave you shortly to go to the PM, but very quickly, how much will you try and cut the benefits bill at the next election in your manifesto? What's your plan for that? Because that will be a big battle, I think, in 2029.
Overall, we've talked about cutting it by 23 billion. That's partly by sorting out this thing, the household benefit cap. It's partly about sorting out sickness and disability benefits, housing benefits, because otherwise we're going to be spending £10,000 for every
Neil,
family.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. We're going to have to move to the Prime Minister right now, but do come back on again. Thank you so much. Keir Starmer speaking
as
live.
Quickly as possible. And I think that proves that we can be agile, we can be tactical, and we can bring together countries in those configurations, so long as there's a single purpose. But strategically, we have to do more than that, because if we talk about defence and security, in Europe we've got behind over many years now. We're not where we need to be. There needs to be a stronger European element in NATO. I have no doubt about that. So across defence and security and trade and energy, all of which have been weaponised, we need a much stronger Europe coming together around these issues. And I think we're all saying versions of the same thing, but I really do feel it goes back to what you said, Mark, in a way. As we come through the challenges that face us, it has to be Europe now that leads the way. And I feel that on defence and security, we've been behind the curve for too long, over dependencies, over reliance, some assumptions about the world that we live in. They've gone. And we now need to lead out of this, and we need to do it at pace, because these impacts are real. The alliances that are under tension are real, and how we as a group of leaders respond now will likely define what goes on for many years, arguably for a generation. So I feel this is a really important moment to come together and have these discussions about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what action then follows from that. Thank you very much, Nikos.
Thank you, Keir. Thank you all. I think it is clear from the discussion that the strength of the whole of Europe approach lies in our shared values. We have shared values. We share values and principles, and by defending the sovereignty and the freedom of every corner of our continent, we are not just protecting our borders and our citizens, but at the same time, we are securing a peaceful future. Thank you very much, and thank you very much once again for hosting us here.
Excellencies, thank you for your active participation and for the focus and substantive exchange.
Well, that was the Prime Minister speaking at an EU summit in Armenia. Well, it is just coming up to 10 o'clock. And we're just coming up to 10 o'clock, but we've been discussing...
Yes, this is European political community. It's like the European Union, but bigger, full of non-EU members. And it was President Macron's idea of France to do this, to replace the fact that the EU was getting smaller after we left it. But it's a talking shop. I was there last year. It's great fun, very informal. And if you're there, you end up wandering around with all the leaders, and it's all quite relaxed.
Well, I expect that's what Starmer thinks. It's a way to get away from it all in a pretty tense week for the British government.
Yes.
But of course, they are discussing the responses to the Iran war and the Ukraine war, which obviously massively affected the EU in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's right. OK, well, we'll come up to 10 o'clock now. This is GB News and Britain's Newsroom.
It is 10 o'clock on Monday, the 4th of May. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Christopher Hope and Miriam Cates.
Are we witnessing another Brexit betrayal? The Prime Minister seeks for closer ties with the European Union and a loan scheme for Ukraine as he lands in Armenia for a key European summit.
We're facing a war on two fronts, the Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household.
Over 500,000 households could be receiving more on benefits than workers on average salaries, despite the introduction of a benefits cap.
Britain's armed forces could be tight for cash as a former military chief warned we'll have no new weapons until 2030.
And 10-year-olds are more likely to own a phone than throw a ball properly. That's a shocking new investigation from the Centre for Social Justice.
Oh, dear.
Lots of talk amongst the EU leaders and our own leaders about the impact of the war in Iran. And, of course, one of the question marks is how much is jet fuel going to increase by, and are travel companies, are plane companies going to cancel flights over the summer?
Well, they might do, but the way I read it is they're getting their response in early and they're going to trim down their timetables, not lose landing slots at key airports like Heathrow, and so it should be hopefully, that you will be able to go on holiday if you've got a holiday booked. Otherwise, we're looking at short-term cancellations, because a lot of these holidays, if you can't fly on one day, that's it. You can't go, so you lose your entire holiday.
You know, you've taken your time off work. It's the only time of year. I've been getting a little bit of flack online, Chris, for something that I've been said earlier when we were handing over from breakfast, which is that to be better safe than sorry, I've booked flights on a ferry, but that's because the ferry is fully cancelable and refundable. I'm not going to leave a slot open and just let it go if the flights don't get cancelled.
So you've got a ferry
just to
booked
reassure
and
people. Indeed, but the ferry is, it's last-minute cancellation, so if the flights go ahead, and I won't be using that slot, and there are plenty of people waiting to take it. So I just wanted to clear that up. I'm not going to book two separate...
Perhaps you raffle of the ferry,
no, the ferry
price.
they're massively oversubscribed, so if your flight is not cancelled, then you just release the places 2 weeks before.
And we're talking later about these plans for what the hotels and other groups are calling a holiday tax, which is going to if the government goes ahead, would tax you to stay anywhere in the UK. I think as staycation has become back in vogue, this will become a concern.
Well, that's it. There's all sorts of problems with getting away this year. Anyway, well, let's hope that everything goes to normal. Well, we'd love to know what you think about this and all the other topics we're discussing today. Send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's the news with Bethany Elsey.
Miriam, Chris, thank you. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom at 3 minutes past 10. The UK is negotiating whether to join an EU-led £78 billion loan scheme to support Ukraine. Sir Keir Starmer says the move would be very good for rebuilding ties with the European Union and creating British jobs. The Prime Minister is at a meeting of more than 40 European leaders in Armenia to discuss wider global security concerns, including the economic impact of the war in the Middle East.
We're facing a war on two fronts, the Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household in the United Kingdom. We can see that already in relation to the impact on energy. So it's vital that we work with international leaders on both fronts.
Iran's armed forces are warning the US Navy against entering the Strait of Hormuz after Donald Trump announced it would start an effort to free stranded ships in the shipping lane. The US says 15,000 military personnel, more than 100 aircraft, warships and drones will all be involved. Iran has continued to blockade the vital passage since the start of the war 2 months ago, leaving hundreds of ships and as many as 20,000 seafarers stuck. At least 10 people have been taken to hospital after a shooting at a lakeside party near Oklahoma City, with many more expected to be injured. The incident took place at Arcadia Lake just after 9 p.m. Police say no suspects are in custody yet. Tens of thousands of cancer patients in England could soon benefit from a new 1-minute immunotherapy injection being rolled out across the NHS. The jab is a faster form of immunotherapy used to treat more than a dozen cancers, including lung, breast and cervical. Until now, patients needed up to 45 minutes on a drip, but the new injection can cut treatment by up to 90%. Around 14,000 patients start the therapy each year, with most of them expected to start the quicker method. Pharmacist Vikash Dodai says it will free up staff time and allow more patients to be treated.
If you're able to give the treatments much quicker, that means you can actually treat more patients through the treatment chairs. So in a unit like this, we are able to then accommodate more patients in a given day. For patients, what that means is that actually they've got quicker access to treatments. They're able to start their treatments quicker as well. And we all know, particularly in cancer, the sooner you start the treatment, the better benefit there is.
UK food prices could be 50% higher by November compared with levels before the cost of living crisis started in mid-2021. That's according to a study by the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit, which is warning nearly 2 decades of price growth would be compressed into just 5 years. It blames global supply issues, volatile energy costs and climate change. Staples like eggs, beef and chocolate have already risen sharply, while olive oil prices have more than doubled. On average, household food bills increased by more than £600 over 2022 to 23. The Dutch brewer Heineken has announced plans to invest more than £44 million in hundreds of pubs across the UK. The funding will go into upgrading nearly 650 venues run by its Star Pubs division, supporting around 850 new jobs. 100 of the sites are set up for major refurbishments, with some reopening after long-term closure. The company says the move comes despite ongoing pressure on the pub sector and is calling for urgent reforms to business rates. And a rare poster from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, could sell for up to £20,000 at a major auction marking Star Wars Day. The 1980 UK cinema poster is considered one of the most desirable from the franchise. It's part of a wider sale by Prop Store featuring more than 400 items. Among them, a Stormtrooper helmet from The Rise of the Skywalker is expected to fetch up to £4,000. The auction runs until later this month. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Christopher Hope and Miriam Kate.
Some breaking news to lighten your bank holiday Monday. Princess Eugenie is expecting her third child with husband Jack Brooksbank this summer. Buckingham Palace has just announced, adding that the King is delighted at the news.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Great news. Babies are always good news. Now, moving on, does the British Army have adequate funding to prepare for war?
Well, General Sir Richard Barron warns that the armed forces have no money to purchase new weapons for 4 more years until 2030, blaming, I'm afraid, the current Labour government.
Well, the former military chief also claims that the Ministry of Defence is going backwards.
So let's speak now to the former Conservative Defence Minister, Tobias Ellwood. He joins us now. Tobias Ellwood, thank you for joining us. No surprise here, is there? I mean, your government didn't put any money at all into defence properly.
No, it's a litany of problems that we're now coming to terms with. Our world is clearly getting more dangerous, more volatile, more unpredictable. And that danger was spelled out in really clear terms in last year's Defence Review, showing how conflict in various forms is heading our way as global order deteriorates. So it's not just baffling, but deeply irresponsible that this government is delaying any serious upgrade to our defence posture. It's worth pointing out that General Sir Richard Barron was the author of that Defence Review, along with Lord Robertson and Fiona Hill. All three have now broken ranks and gone public, expressing real concerns about the state of UK defence. And as global security deteriorates, it's really plain to see for all of us. I mean, we couldn't deploy ships recently to the Mediterranean. There's delays in buying the full fleet of F-35s. And there's a mess of a program to upgrade our land warfare assets, the Challenger and Ajax, for example. And more widely, how slow we are to grasp the impact of grey zone and drone warfare and the world of uncrewed and autonomous weapons. So this delay is actually having knock-on impact to the British industry. We're seeing UK defence companies go to overseas contracts. France, Germany are certainly spending more than we are. That's where those businesses are going. And then on top of that, of course, we've got America's clear decision to disengage from European security. Our adversaries are looking at this and now exploiting our weaknesses. And my biggest concern is that we're going to find out the hard way just how vulnerable we are when we experience a major attack, for example, like a drone strike on Portsmouth or a massive sabotage attack on our undersea cables. Only then will we appreciate that we need to be spending more on defence.
Tobias, President Trump has been very critical of European NATO countries for their lack of defence investment since he came back to the presidency. Now, other countries have really stepped up, and I think across Europe, on average, defence spending has gone up 14% in the last couple of years, which is not insignificant. However, the UK has gone down 2% once inflation is accounted for. Why are we being so much slower to respond to increased threat than our European neighbours?
I think the real answer to that is that we have not been honest with the general public just how clear those threats are that are coming over the hill. It's quite interesting just hearing now what Keir Starmer was saying about the threats that we face. They are much more complicated than he suggests. It isn't just Iran and the Ukraine. There is now an asymmetric warfare against us that Russia is promoting. We have cyber attacks on the UK's economy occurring almost every single day. Threats to those undersea cables I met already. Russia is already in a grey zone war with us, and we're in denial about that. We need to recognise and spell out to the British people just how dangerous the world is. Then there'll be a demand to spend more money. Right now, the pressure is on welfare. It's on policing. It's on housing. It's on hospitals and schools and so forth. That's understandable. And that's why the Treasury is pushing back against the Ministry of Defence and indeed the Prime Minister. So we need to have an honest assessment of those threats. And then the British people will absolutely demand that we spend more money on defence.
But Tobias, isn't it a question the government doesn't seem to know what to spend the money on? I remember the Defence Review back in 2021, which pivoted towards space and cyber, the expense in some places of tanks. Now, you'd argue that's the wrong way around now. We need more money on tanks given the threat, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and so forth. Is it quite hard to try and spend money 4 years out? And is that part of the nervousness in the Treasury?
Yes and no. I mean, on the one side, you're right. We need to spend money on those big platforms, those frigates and destroyers and so forth. But also, as you imply in your question, the character of conflict has changed. We're seeing the Ukraine actually expend over 10,000 artillery shells every single day. Yeah. We haven't got the ability to make artillery shells. So it's not a matter of simply having them in stockpiles. It's the ability to regenerate. We've got 155 tanks, fantastic tanks, some of the best in the world. But after the first battle, many of them will limp away, not able to work again. Where's the replenishment? So it's this ability to have your industry able to replenish every aspect of your military defense posture. And then there's also the character of conflict itself, drone warfare, as we see in Ukraine. They are building, procuring 7 million drones a year now. Have we even got that capability there? So it isn't just what's actually in the QM stores of our Army, Air Force, or Navy. It's what our industry is able to provide and produce were we to go to war. And it's that area that we need to prepare for. That's where we could spend money now. But right now, there's something called the Defence Investment Plan, which is how you're going to spend all the money. The government hasn't agreed this yet, hasn't publicised this yet. So all these contracts are sitting in abeyance, waiting for the green light from the Treasury. And that, as I say, is actually putting Britain in danger.
Well, Tobias Ellwood, former Defence Minister, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Now, the MOD has said this government is providing the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, with £270 billion being invested in defence in this Parliament alone. And the defence budget is growing in real terms.
Following recommendations by the Strategic Defence Review, the UK is spending £4 billion on boosting our drone capabilities, and the upcoming Defence Investment Plan will fix the outdated, overcommitted and underfunded defence programme we inherited. Difficult one, isn't it?
Wait and see on that. It's hard to spend money, and they worry about it's been so wasteful in the past, the MOD. The Treasury know that. That's why there's a lack of trust, I think. But also, Tobias's government didn't invest enough, I think, over 14 years.
And also, I wonder if using the measure of a percentage of GDP is actually a bit of a red herring, because the French spend less as a percent of GDP than we do on defence, and yet get way more for their money.
It's a movable feast because the economy grows and contracts. And vividly, I remember the 0.7% of aid money on that meant that because they had to hit 0.7% in a calendar year, they had to try and hit it in a fiscal year. So by February or March of each year, they'll be chucking money out the door to hit this moving target because the economy is growing.
That's right. It would be far more sensible to say we need this number of tanks, this number of planes, this number of soldiers. How are we going to fund it, rather than? And
it should be average over 3 years, by the way. So it's a known figure, but it does cause chaos.
Exactly, and politically so difficult because we've got to stop spending on other things if we're going to spending on defence. And this government tried to cut the welfare bill by just a very small amount and was defeated by Labour rebels. They haven't got a chance of cutting the bill.
They weren't even cutting it; they were stopping it growing.
Indeed,
by £5 billion.
Indeed. So how are they going to fund an increase in defence if they can't cut spending elsewhere? It's just not possible.
It's a great worry. I think the issue of the next election is welfare.
Yeah,
and a bit of the European Union and economy and health and defence.
A smorgasbord.
OK. Time for our brand new Great British giveaway now, and your chance to have a spectacular summer with £76,543 and 21 pence. That's 765432 0.21 in tax-free cash in your bank. Imagine the kind of sum you could have with all that extra money. Here's all the details you need to make it yours.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, shocking new data revealed in a new analysis that has prompted a benefits overhaul.
We'll be going through that and more with Mark Field and Matthew Torbett. There they are. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Let's look at some of these newspaper front pages today.
Well, the Telegraph reveals welfare pays more than work for 600,000 households.
In the Times, Britain reportedly ordered to pay £1 billion a year to the European Union after the so-called reset.
And The Guardian, they're leading with the toothless oversight of AI facial recognition systems. The toothless, can AI recognise you?
What that means, really. Yeah, it kind of works a bit. OK, it's 10:21. This is Britain's Newsroom with Christopher Hope and Miriam Kate.
Well, we're joined now by our panel this morning to review the papers, political commentator Matthew Torbett and former Conservative MP Mark Field here in the studio. Welcome to you both.
Nice to see you,
Mark, I think this is a bank holiday special. You're not normally on our Monday panel.
I know, aren't I lucky? You know, everyone, hopefully thousands of people are watching, and I'll be mixing my wet metaphors. Don't worry.
Good. That's being toothless. That's quite funny.
Yes.
Shall we start though with this benefits headline that the Telegraph are leading with? So this is from research from Neil O'Brien, Conservative frontbencher, who's always doing some fascinating investigations on his Substack online. But he's found that there is this extraordinary number of households now, 600,000, that are taking home tens of thousands in benefits, way more than people on the average wage. How has this happened?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid it happened, of course, under the Conservatives as well. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon, but it also shows just how important it is that we get the welfare situation sorted out. And part of the trouble here is we have this delusion, which I'm afraid applies to much of the political class, that we're much wealthier than we really are. And we keep on hearing this talk about we're the fifth or the sixth largest economy in the world. And back in 1990, that was true in the sense of the size of the economy compared to the number of people living here and in terms of what that money could buy you. We're now about the 28th wealthiest country. We're far less wealthy than we think we are. And that's one of the reasons we've got to absolutely sort out welfare. And as we've seen, notwithstanding this huge Labour majority, they've done absolutely nothing.
Your lot couldn't do. We promised you at the election, by the way, but didn't get re-elected.
Exactly
Matthew Torbett, your party can't do it when they try and do it. They couldn't stop increasing by $5 billion in 2024.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's interesting. If I was to be really fair to Keir Starmer, I've obviously been no fan of his leadership. I think his biggest failure has been giving Labour MPs what they want, famously over things like welfare. He's given in on lots of stuff, and they now hate him for it, which is a sort of great irony. I've not seen the detail on this. I don't know if the Conservatives have published it. The thing that concerns me is we're talking about 1% of the country. It's not to downplay it, but it's a real minority. The other thing that concerns me about the welfare's got to be dealt with.
Well, there's actually it's 1 in 30 households this applies to. I mean, that's over 3%. Well, so that is a significant number of households who, without working, are taking home significantly more than people who go to work every day and do the right thing.
Which absolutely...
I mean, that's scandalous. That is scandalous.
Work should pay more. And therefore, I think there's so much of welfare we've got to tackle. There's the bloviating state of it in the first place, paying 60 billion quid or whatever it is upwards. 40% of people in work are on benefits, though, and I think that opens a broader question of why are we as taxpayers subsidising normally large corporations? Well, it was
Gordon Brown, wasn't it, with his tax credits going back to 1997. Yeah, that's how that came about. And again, Brown promised Blair at the time it was going to cost a few £100 million a year. Day one, it was £7 or £8 billion a year, and of course it has gone up even more since then. And that is part of the problem. And you know, one can make an argument. Maybe employers are taking advantage of employees and expecting the government to take on part of that burden, but something has gone fantastically wrong on the whole economic system for the last 30 years. And this is not a new problem, but it has now become, I think, something that many voters out there are very angry about. Just to go back, and sorry, I don't want to criticise what you said, Matthew, but 600,000 households, that isn't 1% of the households.
Fair point.
That's a far larger number than that.
Fair point. No, I think that's fair enough.
But just go back to what you were saying about the problem being that we think we're a lot richer than we are. I was listening to the Rest is History podcast over the weekend. They did a series on the 1970s about the massive crisis with Jim Callaghan and Dennis Healey.
Some of us are old enough to remember the 1970s. Not you, Miriam, of course. Yes.
But they were saying, at the time, they were saying things like, we've been borrowing to meet our standard of living. We've got to be honest with the British public. We can't afford the standard of living. Nothing's changed.
No.
50 years. We're still borrowing to meet our daily costs.
Well, in fairness, things did change for a period of time, in the Thatcher time, and in fairness, through much of the Blair-Brown time.
Only in the mid-'80s, though, not before that.
And she did it by selling off our assets, which we now no longer have. Anyway.
What happens when you sell your assets?
Well, Nigel Farage is forecasting a run on the pound after the next budget and election next year, but let's leave that thought to one side.
Depends on who the leader is.
It does.
You might get it sooner rather than later.
There are too many unknowns in this conversation.
Matthew Torbett, the front page of the Times, would you pay £1 billion a year to rejoin bits of the European Union? Is that a good good value?
Yeah, I think I'd snap the EU's hand off.
$1 billion a year, would you?
Yes, because I think if you look at the terms Norway get, which would largely be similar, they're paying $3 billion. Most people would say that about Brexit, like cards on the table, yes, I voted Remain. I was a total reluctant Remainer. I thought both campaigns were dreadful and promising all sorts that was never going to come to fruition. We've lost £400 million worth of imports and exports to this country because of Brexit. And I always thought I'd have been happy to settle for some sort of access, happy to leave the framework. We're not rejoining under this. Take your football home if you don't want the EU to play with it. Don't put a knife in it and pop it yourself so you can't play with it. And I feel like that's what we've done. We've shafted ourselves economically through what? Ideological... And the other thing is, I had someone complaining to me earlier saying, well, you just want us to be a vassal state. We copied and pasted EU law over in the 2018 EU withdrawal bill. We still follow a lot of EU law now.
But we have sovereignty to pull out of those deals if we want. That's the point.
Yeah.
Brexit sovereignty.
In fairness, in some of those deals and some of those areas, in financial services is a good example, I was the City's MP, we were at the table, we were making those rules. They were rules made in our interests. So it wasn't that we shouldn't have passed some of this over. But I think that the fundamental issue is, listen, I accept an idea that if you're no longer a member of a club rules apply. If there are specific things that we want that we can pay for, but I'm afraid
that's what he's doing now with Erasmus and other areas.
Exactly right. But I think this puts into very sharp focus this idea that from some, particularly on the left of politics, that it's going to be an easy path to rejoin the EU. It's nonsense. This is partly designed to be punitive. It is very much punishing Britain for the decision that was made in 2016, which is why I think it's so unacceptable.
I mean, full rejoining is $22 billion a year, according to Matthew Elliott, who, of course, who ran the Vote Leave campaign. I mean, it's all about money, isn't it, Matthew?
Of course it is, and that's why, as someone on the left of politics, I don't think we should be rejoining. We'll never get it as good as we had. We didn't take part in Schengen. We didn't go to them to discuss Iraq. We never joined the euro. We had a load of opt-outs.
We had our rebate, where we would lose that immediately.
We'll never get it as good as. And I totally respect the argument of sovereignty. Tony Benn is one of my political heroes. He was absolutely bang on about things like
and Jeremy Corbyn, of course.
Yeah, well, Corbyn not quite a hero of mine, but maybe it's not the same point.
You nearly got him.
I'm just checking you.
But as you said, it's all about money.
Yeah.
People will not be eating a bowl of sovereignty this morning and feeling better for it.
Mark, do you think that Europe is its own worst enemy sometimes? Because in an ideal world, the continent of Europe is ideally placed to be a challenger to the US, to China. If we could get our act together and work out how to cooperate without watering down our wonderful, unique individual cultures and political systems. And yet there seems to be this all-or-nothing approach. Either we have to be totally federal and lose our sovereignty, or we have to fight each other all the time.
Yeah, well, of course, the argument in part is that we now have continental-sized power blocks in the US, China, to an extent India coming up, and therefore that is the argument. Well, the EU needs to be 500 million strong, etc., etc. As you say, there's been too much navel-gazing, really, and no one is really looking at some of the bigger strategic issues that we should be looking at. And I'm afraid, I think Europe as a whole, and I don't just mean the European Union, I mean us as well, are very much bystanders when it comes to issues such as AI, etc., etc.
Matthew, the Telegraph reporting Iran offers Trump 1 month deal to end the war. I mean, who's in control here? I mean, is it Trump in control anymore, or is Iran now holding in the box seat?
He's holding a blockade up in the Strait. I think he's had to do that because he didn't have control, Iran did. It's costing Iran big time, but it's also costing Trump, both in the polls and the war up to now. Well, obviously us, Asia is taking a hit. You see places like Vietnam and Thailand doing 4-day weeks, rationing fuel. It's going to come here very shortly if we're not careful. I appreciate Trump might not want to give in, because I think the stipulation is let's end it for a month, and then that gets us around the table to discuss the nuclear future for Iran. When you think about the JCPOA, which Trump pulled out of, that involved nuclear scientists and all sorts of experts on the Iranian side and took months, close to a year, I think, to hash out. At the moment, we've got Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner at the table with no expertise in anything other than grifting. So I don't hold out hope. This is going to take a long time, but let's have some breathing space in the first place.
I think the big worry is any specialist in the energy field will tell you that we have more or less used up our global reserves, and says that we are going to come to a crunch in the next 4 to 6 weeks in this regard. And the bigger worry here, I think, is that both Iran and the US think that time is on their side. and someone is going to be wrong here. So this thing could drift on for another few weeks and months, and I think we're right to identify the issues. Even if the war was sorted out, we've got a long tail, and the long shadow, I think, for months, if not years, will impact our economy here in the UK particularly, but I think across the world.
Mark, Matthew, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. We'll have you back in an hour. But for now, thank you to our panel.
OK, and now here is your 60-second news update with Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister is meeting with more than 40 EU leaders in Armenia, discussing whether to join a £78 billion loan scheme to support Ukraine in its war with Russia. Sir Keir Starmer says the move would support British jobs. Iran's armed forces are warning the US Navy against entering the Strait of Hormuz after Donald Trump announced it would start an effort to free up stranded ships in the passage. A British tourist is being treated in intensive care in South Africa, and 3 others have died in a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. At least 10 people have been taken to hospital after a shooting at a lakeside party near Oklahoma City. Authorities are warning that number may rise as many make their own way to hospital. Tens of thousands of cancer patients in England could soon benefit from a new 1-minute immunotherapy injection being rolled out across the NHS to replace a sometimes hour-long treatment. The Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit is warning UK food prices could be 50% higher by November compared with mid-2021 when the cost of living crisis started. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more at 11 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Coming up next, you won't believe why children are losing the ability to throw a ball. And I'll also be revealing all about my unfortunate attempts to try and throw a ball this weekend. Don't want to miss that.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For most, Bank Holiday Monday will be dry, albeit fairly cloudy. However, where we see the sunshine develop, well, we could also see some heavy showers, mainly in the south, but we'll also need to watch out for a weather front pushing down across northern parts of Scotland. Here we could see some more general spells of rain at times through the course of this afternoon. Probably the best of the sunshine through the rest of Monday will be across more southern and central parts of Scotland, the northeast of England, where it will be much warmer than yesterday, and also across more southern counties of the UK. But here, well, with that sunshine helping to lift temperatures up to 19 or 20 degrees, we could see some pretty intense heavy showers developing, particularly later this afternoon and into this evening, and more especially across southwest England. So here we could see the odd rumble of thunder, perhaps some hail mixed in as well. But generally, there will be some dry spells around as well, and probably the best of the sunshine will be around coastal parts of Devon and Cornwall. Further north, many places will have a dry end to the day. A lot of cloud across the Midlands and Wales, but some sunshine for northern England and southern Scotland. Northern Scotland, though, generally much cloudier here. Outbreaks of rain at times and feeling increasingly cool as a north to northwesterly breeze starts to develop. Still some heavy showers in the southwest of England and across the M4 corridor for a time this evening, but those will fade as we go into the early hours of Tuesday morning. So for most, it does turn into a mostly dry night. There'll be a mixture of cloud and clear spells, and we could see 1 or 2 fog patches, particularly in the south, later in the night. Further north, where skies are clearest, we could get quite close to freezing in northern Scotland with a fairly keen northerly breeze developing. And here, the showers are likely to turn increasingly to snow as we go through the day on Tuesday, particularly over the higher ground. So a much chillier feel developing, brisk northerly winds, so feeling more like 3 to 6 degrees in the most exposed areas. Quite a chill in the air on Tuesday. Otherwise, a lot of cloud across the country, but some sunny spells developing. And in the sunshine, it should still feel fairly pleasantly warm in the south with highs of 18 or 19 degrees.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A75 is closed at Annan after an incident. prompting drivers to seek alternative routes. On the A63 westbound in Kingston upon Hull, a broken-down vehicle has led to one-lane closure, with normal traffic conditions expected between 10:30 and 10:45 a.m. On the M25 anti-clockwise near Thurrock, an accident has caused lane closures with about a 20-minute delay, clearing between 11 to and 11:15 a.m. And on the trains, significant engineering work at Liverpool Lime Street Station is affecting Avanti West Coast services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's 24 minutes to 11.
This is Britain's Newsroom with Christopher Hope and Miriam Cates.
Now, gone are the days when children would play outside until the streetlights come on. A recent investigation reveals shocking data on how inactive our kids have become.
10-year-olds are reportedly more likely to own a phone than know how to throw a ball properly, unbelievably.
Well, 2.1 million primary school children are now considered insufficiently active.
Now, Head of Youth at the Centre for Social Justice, Dan Lilly, joins us now. Dan, so this is appalling, isn't it? You've got muscle wastage amongst young kids and they can't throw a ball because they're fiddling with their phones.
Yes. So we know so much, don't we, that one of the most important parts of childhood is learning how to be really active and getting strong, getting fit. And we're just seeing much less of it among younger children in particular. And obviously, if younger children are less active, they're much less likely to become active when they're older children. And the chances of them having a lifetime of playing sport and running and all things like that are massively harmed. So absolutely, it's really concerning to see.
Now, children spend most of their lives either at school or at home. Let's talk about home in a moment. But at primary school, I think probably a lot of our viewers will be under the impression that kids are doing lots of PE, they're playing outside a lot. People might have heard of the mile a day, the idea that children should be running a mile a day. Is this actually not happening in schools?
Yes, so you're quite right. There are two places where a child will be active, in school and out of school. And in school, we're seeing that the activity has been really deprioritised in the last 20 years or so. So you or I growing up at school, even just in break time and lunchtime, would spend enough time, just out and about, being active, running around, kicking a football. And partly due to health and safety concerns, partly due to time constraints, that time has been really shrunk. And the thing that's replaced it is just 2 hours a week of PE, which is not enough for a young child to be meeting the level of activity that they need to be meeting. It's why one of the things we recommend in the report is a school activity standard to say, look, it's a fundamental part of the development of a child from the age of 4 to 11, that they're learning how to be active all the time and they're getting strong and fit and healthy.
And that's why it's probably right, isn't it, maybe, that phones are banned at school. I know that's been made a legal requirement now after that vote in the House of Lords in recent weeks, but it feels right that you've got to try and free those children from phones, which essentially are adult devices, which the children can't really resist themselves from getting involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. So screens are another crucial part of the picture. So the first thing, schools prioritising activity more. The second thing, screen use. So one thing we found was that if a child spends just 15 minutes a day less on their phone and they spend that time being physically active, then the number of children who aren't active enough would go down by 300,000. So at the moment, you've got children in year 6 spending an average of 3 hours a day on their phone. So we're only talking about a quarter of an hour out of those 3 hours. And you would have 300,000 more active children. So that's a huge part of this picture, getting them offline and getting them in real physical spaces.
Now, Dan, outside of school, of course, we're also seeing a huge rise in the hours that children spend on screens sitting still at home. But do you think this is a collective action problem? Because certainly I found as a parent when my children were younger, they're all at secondary school now, was that I was perfectly happy for them to play outside and play on the road and go to the park. But if no other parents are happy for their children to do that, then they're on their own and it's no longer fun, it's no longer enticing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're quite right. The sort of the 3 pillars, the first, school prioritisation, that second, screen use, and the third, as you say, is that time to just have informal, semi-structured or unstructured play. Now, part of that is the fall in volunteering we've seen, which means the ability to go and play sport on a field or go to a club has massively been reduced. Part of that also because physical spaces are less sort of designed for children being active these days. But also a big part of that is that we've become so much more nervous to let children just go and be safe, but also somewhat, you know, playfully feral around sort of town and all of that. And it's become something that we've been very nervous about, which obviously has its safety advantages, but these things come with risks on both sides. And it's a risk for the child if they're not learning how to do this as well.
Wonder how we get around that, really. I mean, it's letting them just go and play and trust them to come home, don't go off with strangers, all the basics that we were taught when we were younger, I suppose. It's hard to know what the policy response is to this, isn't it? I mean, it's on parents, maybe, to say, just let the children be children.
Well, I'm so pleased you asked on the policy response, because I suppose we have three big pillars that we talk about. So the first is around that school activity standard. So this being reprioritised as fundamental to how you run a primary school. The second thing then is around access to facilities. So one problem we have in the UK is that the stock of facilities, of astroturfs, of playgrounds, of sports halls that we have is so unused compared to the scale it could be. It's locked for a lot of the week if there's no oversight or if there's a concern about destruction of property. And if you will, the gateway drug to trusting your children to be out and active in a safe environment is an astroturf that's on the school site. And it's safe and it's controlled, but it's also informal. And then the third aspect, as we were discussing, is moving away from screens and towards and sort of removing that displacement effect towards healthier habits.
And Dan, what happens if we don't solve this problem? What happens if we see increasing levels of inactivity among our children?
So sadly, what happens is that as those children get older, as they become teenagers, they're much more likely to be both physically and mentally unhealthy. They're also much less likely to be active, because so much of being active as a 15-year-old is how active you were as an 8-year-old. And then as they go into adult lives, that situation just becomes worse. And it's not just a tragedy in terms of the lost fun, but it's also remarkably expensive, people who are much less physically healthy. If you have an entire generation that is less physically healthy, then your cost on services in terms of the likelihood of them being out of work, but also in terms of their health and their use of the NHS. We have an estimate in the report around it being several billions of pounds, the cost of not getting younger children. We think, oh, younger children being active, it seems like a slightly soft issue, but this is crucial to crafting the next generation of this country.
Well, Dan Lilly, the head of youth, forgive me, at the Centre for Social Justice, thank you for joining us today. And Miriam, you're good at throwing, aren't you?
Oh no, I thought you'd forgotten about this.
You're good at throwing.
My son was in a football tournament this weekend, and I had to walk back to the car to fetch his shin pads, and I had to walk back past the cricket pitch where some lads were playing cricket, and one of them hit the ball too far and it rolled past my feet, and I was on my own, and I thought, I'm going to have to throw this back because I'll look really rude if I just ignore it. But I'm a girl and I can't throw, and I'm ashamed to admit that I threw it underarm, Chris, and it got about halfway to the fielder.
You haven't even got mobile phones as an excuse, because they weren't around when you were younger.
No, I
You're just
can't
rubbish.
blame lack of strength or lack of activity. I just can't throw, I'm afraid.
Oh dear.
Never mind. There you go, that's my story. So I'm not sure throwing is the right measurement of activity.
No government policy can save you, Miriam.
No, I think that
no intervention can make you throw better.
I don't really want to play cricket anyway, but hey, that's my excuse.
OK. Up next, we'll have the latest on the hantavirus, which has left a British cruise ship passenger in intensive care and killed 3 others.
This is Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there. The risk of heavy showers and thunderstorms across central parts of the Mediterranean the next few days. Some heavy rain across Madeira as well on Tuesday. Sunny spells for the Canary Islands. Southern parts of Spain and Portugal seeing sunny spells, but across the north and into France, northern Italy, the risk of some thunderstorms. But sunny spells in Greece and Turkey as well. And temperatures lifting after a cool few days here and staying pleasant over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a growing anti-marriage movement emerging in South Korea. Last month, a major pop star made headlines when she said, "If I don't want any children, why marry?" A view that is now being echoed by thousands of women. So this afternoon, we're asking, should women be turning away from marriage?
And you'll see that the birth rate in South Korea is absolutely catastrophically low. I think it's something like 0.7 or 0.8 children for women. It's still about 1.4 here, which is low, but obviously a lot higher. And the problem in South Korea specifically, and many Southeast Asian countries, is that whilst the world has modernized in some ways, so women now get great educations, there's a lot of pressure on them to have great careers, the pressure on them to do everything at home has not changed. So it's a really gendered society. Women are expected to do everything in the home.
We have to remember that men are women's apex predator. You are more likely to be killed by the man that you marry than any other 8 billion person on this planet. So it's one of those things where it's like it shouldn't be entered too lightly. And I think it's really important that women feel empowered. For the first time in history, we as women no longer rely on men for anything.
Also, women's greatest defenders, and we see that particularly teenage girls are much safer when they live with their father. They're much more likely to be protected from other predatory men. I mean, you're shaking your head,
women,
but that's what the statistics say.
No, you're more protected by women. No, you're reading.
Hold
on, Nadia, let Miriam finish talking.
In men, all the jobs that men do that are absolutely crucial to society, that we as women would not be safe or able to exist if those men didn't do those jobs for us.
Okay,
but we could do those jobs. We could do those jobs.
You want to fight on the front line of a war?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 12 minutes to 11 o'clock. This is GB News with Miriam and Christopher.
Well, a British tourist is being treated in hospital in South Africa following a deadly outbreak of a respiratory illness called hantavirus on a cruise ship carrying around 150 tourists.
The suspected outbreak was reported aboard the MV Hondias cruise ship, which was travelling from Argentina to Cape Verde. 3 people have already died.
Well, let's join GB News health editor now, Lucy Johnston. Lucy, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, very concerning news for those on the ship and their relatives. Can you tell us a little bit more about this virus, what the symptoms are and how it spreads?
Yeah, well, it's very concerning for the people on the ship. It's spread through by rodents, so rats and mice, and not through the animals themselves. Usually it's through the inhalation of their feces or urine. And cruise ships are sort of well known to be kind of very like petri dishes for spreading viruses. And if the rats were on the ship, then it could well be that the virus is spread through them getting into the cabins and down into the to different parts of the ship. But it's also possible that there could have been an excursion and that the virus was spread through some outboard excursion. So we don't really know at the moment. The British man who is currently in intensive care in Johannesburg is the only confirmed case, but the other 3 people who died are suspected to have developed this as well, and they were all older people, so it tends to hit older people much harder. The person in Johannesburg we now know is 69, and the others are in their 60s and 70s, and one I think is still on board and is died. So the other concerning thing is that the ship has not been able to dock or disembark. The Cape Verde authorities are not allowing people to go onto the island, and it may well be because they don't want those rats on Cape Verde, and they don't have a very highly sophisticated medical system perhaps to treat people.
It's shocking, and it's often the case, isn't it, with these cruises, that these often it can be a very bad vomiting bug. We hear, don't we, with bigger ships, but the deaths are so rare, aren't they? And it presents all sorts of problems with the bodies. I think they've left one body has had to be repatriated on an island and left there, and as the ship sails on, I mean, it's desperate times.
Well, the fatality rate for this can be up to 40%, but there are various types and subtypes, and it hasn't been confirmed which particular type this one is. So it's the symptoms can be sort of fever, fatigue, muscle aches, shortness of breath. People on these cruise ships tend to be older, may have underlying health conditions, and some types of this virus can cause what they call hemorrhagic fever, which is bleeding basically, and can cause really severe kidney problems, which is the most deadly form. So even though outbreaks on ships are more commonly linked to norovirus and influenza, historically ships have played a role in spreading deadly diseases right back to the 14th century and the Black Death, and then we had COVID-19 on the Diamond Princess, if you remember. So it's not unknown. These viruses can spread very quickly because people are in large numbers of people are in confined spaces and often very much indoors, so it's easy for transmission to occur. Although, just to be clear, the transmission here is very rarely from person to person. There's only a few cases, so we don't need to worry about that. But the rats and the mice, which may be on this ship, are what are causing this infection to spread to these people.
Lucy Johnston, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And yeah, very concerning, Chris. And they are in such an enclosed space that once there is an outbreak, everybody on board must be very, very worried that they're going to be next.
Imagine nervous as washing your hands, trying to ensure you don't pick it up.
Yeah, but understandable why authorities in the islands where they are passing don't want to let them on. So a very difficult situation.
A spokesman for the UK Foreign Office says this.
We are closely monitoring reports of a potential hantavirus outbreak on the cruise ship Hondius and stand ready to support British nationals if needed.
We're in touch with the cruise company and local authorities.
Well, still ahead, we're going to have the latest from Armenia, where Catherine Forster is up close and personal with some of the EU leaders.
She's posting some fantastically candid pictures of really quite close up to the world leaders. It's a very informal European grouping, and I've been there, and you are really rubbing shoulders with world leaders. And actually, they're normally kept miles apart at the G20 and G7, so it's good.
Well, hopefully the outcome will be as consequential as the meetup. We'll see. Well, that's all coming up here on Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News. Here's your weather.
Don't go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For most, Bank Holiday Monday will be dry, albeit fairly cloudy. However, where we see the sunshine develop, well, we could also see some heavy showers, mainly in the south, but we'll also need to watch out for a weather front pushing down across northern parts of Scotland. Here we could see some more general spells of rain at times through the course of this afternoon. Probably the best of the sunshine through the rest of Monday will be across more southern and central parts of Scotland, the northeast of England, where it will be much warmer than yesterday, and also across more southern counties of the UK. But here, well, with that sunshine helping to lift temperatures up to 19 or 20 degrees, we could see some pretty intense heavy showers developing, particularly later this afternoon and into this evening, and more especially across southwest England. So here we could see the odd rumble of thunder, perhaps some hail mixed in as well. But generally there will be some dry spells around as well, and probably the best of the sunshine will be around coastal parts of Devon and Cornwall. Further north, many places will have a dry end to the day. A lot of cloud across the Midlands and Wales, but some sunshine for northern England and southern Scotland. Northern Scotland, though, generally much cloudier here. Outbreaks of rain at times and feeling increasingly cool as a north to northwesterly breeze starts to develop. Still some heavy showers in the southwest of England and across the M4 corridor for a time this evening, but those will fade as we go into the early hours of Tuesday morning. So for most, it does turn into a mostly dry night. There'll be a mixture of cloud and clear spells, and we could see one or two fog patches, particularly in the south, later in the night. Further north, where skies are clearest, we could get quite close to freezing in northern Scotland with a fairly keen northerly breeze developing. And here, the showers are likely to turn increasingly to snow as we go through the day on Tuesday, particularly over the higher ground. So a much chillier feel developing, brisk northerly winds, so feeling more like 3 to 6 degrees in the most exposed areas. Quite a chill in the air on Tuesday. Otherwise, a lot of cloud across the country, but some sunny spells developing, and in the sunshine it should still feel fairly pleasantly warm in the south with highs of 18 or 19 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change.
From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It's 11 o'clock on Monday, the 4th of May. Live across the UK, this is Britain's Newsroom with Christopher Hope and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Prime Minister has touched down in Armenia.
Facing a war on two fronts, the Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household.
Are we witnessing another Brexit betrayal? The PM seeks closer ties with the European Union and a loan scheme for Ukraine.
As we come through the challenges that face us, it has to be Europe now that leads the way.
Yes, the Prime Minister is spending his bank holiday Monday with about 45 other European leaders here in Armenia, saying that there's more tension in the alliances than there should be, and saying that they have to do it at pace, Europe taking responsibility for leading and for its own defence.
Elsewhere, it's no wonder that the benefits bill is growing. More than 500,000 households could be receiving more on benefits than workers on average salaries.
And cash crisis. Britain's armed forces are so tight for money that one former top military chief has warned this: we won't be able to buy any new weapons until 2030, 4 more years.
And some breaking news this morning. Princess Eugenie is expecting her 3rd child with husband Jack Brooksbank this summer, and the King is said to be delighted.
Do let us know what you think, how you are. How is your bank holiday going? What are you doing? Miriam, what are your plans for later on?
Well, after we finish the show, I'll be going back home and spending some time with the kids. Yeah, it's funny working on a bank holiday, but it's quite nice. It's very, very quiet on my way in this morning. The trains are very quiet. Everybody. Well, the weather's not too bad for a British bank holiday.
It's overcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, no, it's
Saturday was really nice.
Yes.
And we live in Felixstowe, and yesterday there was every year they have a parade of classic cars along the seafront. Hundreds of really old cars. It's quite fun to watch.
You're not a big wild swimmer, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't like being cold. I'll swim abroad. my husband and some of my children are interested.
My wife does wild swimming. Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind
cold. I'm a wimp.
Yeah, but I was on the beach yesterday at Formby looking at the Blackpool Tower to my right, the Snowdonia Hills to my left, and yeah, I mean, it's all there, and Lake District Hills to my right again. So it
I
is
like looking at it, Chopper. I just don't like getting in.
we live in a beautiful, beautiful country.
We do. It's true. We've got everything, haven't we? Mountains, lakes, rivers.
In the world.
And no natural disasters and no nasty insects.
And we worry about a lot of stuff. We worry about a lot.
That's true.
But that's
our
way.
national pastime.
That's why we're British. OK.
What are you worrying about today? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your news with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom at 3 minutes past 11. The UK is negotiating whether to join an EU-led £78 billion loan scheme to support Ukraine. Sir Keir Starmer says the move would be very good for rebuilding ties with the European Union and creating jobs at home. The Prime Minister is at a meeting of more than 40 European leaders in Armenia to also discuss the economic impact of the war in the Middle East.
We're facing a war on two fronts. The Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household in the United Kingdom. We can see that already in relation to the impact on energy. So it's vital that we work with international leaders on both fronts.
Iran's armed forces are warning the US Navy against entering the Strait of Hormuz after Donald Trump announced it would start an effort to free stranded ships in the lane. The US says 15,000 military personnel, more than 100 aircraft, warships and drones will be involved. Iran has continued to blockade the vital passage since the start of the war 2 months ago, leaving hundreds of ships and as many as 20,000 seafarers stuck. A British tourist is being treated in intensive care in South Africa and 3 people have died after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. It's understood at least 3 others are also unwell, but just 1 case of the virus has been confirmed so far. The World Health Organization has launched an investigation into the outbreak, which was reported on the ship sailing from Argentina to Cape Verde. In the US, at least 10 people have been taken to hospital after a shooting at a lakeside party near Oklahoma City. The incident took place at Arcadia Lake just after 9 p.m. Police say no suspects are in custody yet. Authorities are warning the number of injured is expected to rise as others have made their own way to seek treatment. Tens of thousands of cancer patients in England could soon benefit from a new 1-minute injection being rolled out across the NHS. The jab is a faster form of an immunotherapy drug used to treat more than a dozen cancers, including lung, breast and cervical. Until now, patients needed to wait for 45 minutes on a drip. Head of Pharmacy Vikash Dodiya says it'll free up staff time and allow more patients to be treated.
If you're able to give the treatments much quicker, that means you can actually treat more patients through the treatment chairs. So in a unit like this, we are able to then accommodate more patients in a given day. For patients, what that means is that actually they've got quicker access to treatments. They're able to start their treatments quicker as well. And we all know, particularly in cancer, the sooner you start the treatment, the better benefit there is.
UK food prices could be 50% higher by November compared with mid-2021 when the cost of living crisis started. That's according to a study by the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. It's warning nearly 2 decades of price growth would be compressed into just 5 years. It blames global supply issues, volatile energy costs and climate change. Eggs, beef and chocolate have already risen sharply, while olive oil prices have more than doubled. The Dutch brewer Heineken has announced plans to invest more than £44 million in hundreds of pubs across the UK. The funding will go into upgrading nearly 650 venues run by its Star Pubs division, supporting around 850 new jobs. 100 of the sites are set for major refurbishments, with some of those reopening after long-term closure. The company says the move comes despite ongoing pressure on the pub sector and is calling for urgent reforms to business rates. And a rare poster from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, could sell for up to £20,000 at a major auction. The 1980 UK cinema poster is considered one of the most desirable from the franchise. It's part of a wider sale by prop store featuring more than 400 items, among them a Stormtrooper helmet from The Rise of Skywalker, expected to fetch up to £4,000. The auction runs until later this month. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News with me, Christopher Hope, and the wonderful Miriam Cates.
You're so kind. Well, let's go to Armenia now, because the government has announced that it is intending to start talks to join the European Union's €90 billion loan for Ukraine as it seeks to bolster support for Kyiv and deepen defence ties with the bloc.
The Prime Minister is in Armenia, where he will tell leaders at this European gathering in Yerevan that Britain wants to work more closely with them.
Well, GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, joins us now. Catherine, a really important meeting for these leaders, but not actually in the EU itself. Tell us a bit more about why they're meeting in Armenia.
Yes, well, welcome to Armenia. It's where Europe and Asia meet. Just 160 miles south of here is the border with Iran. And if you go north, there's Georgia. And north of that, it's Russia. So we are literally here sandwiched between these two wars on two fronts that are having such an impact for all of us here in Europe. And the European political community, it isn't just the European Union countries, it's countries across the whole of Europe. It was the brainchild of Emmanuel Macron after Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2022 for European leaders to come and talk about their challenges. And my goodness, they have plenty of those. And Armenia in particular, this is the first time that any British Prime Minister has been to an independent Armenia, because it was part of the USSR in 1990 when Margaret Thatcher came. It is becoming much closer to Europe now, but it has traditionally had very, very strong ties with Russia, something that Europe is keen to lessen. So I asked the Prime Minister a little bit earlier, fundamentally, what benefit there is going to be for British people at home of his being here. Let's have a look at what he said in response.
We're facing a war on two fronts. The Ukraine war, which is now in its 5th year, and the Iran conflict. Both of those are impacting every single household in the United Kingdom. We can see that already in relation to the impact on energy. So it's vital that we work with international leaders on both fronts. So today I'll be discussing Ukraine and what more we can do to support Ukraine and make sure that we get the lasting peace that we need. And of course on Iran and getting the Strait of Hormuz open. We're working with European and other leaders on that. That will directly affect everybody back at home because that is impacting all of us, and it's vital that we do that work. In relation to the EU loan that we are discussing participating in, that is very good for Ukraine because it will give Ukraine capability that it desperately needs in year 5 of this conflict. It's very good for the UK because it'll be capability that leads to jobs in the United Kingdom, and it's very good for UK-EU relations.
So the Prime Minister presenting our potential participation in this EU loan to Ukraine scheme as a win-win for all sides. If it happens, of course, because we tried to get in on the safe defence programme, and the amount of money that the EU wanted in return was astronomical, and so we walked away. But Sir Keir Starmer very, very keen, as we know, for close relations with the EU, for that EU reset that we're hearing rumours today might cost us £1 billion a year. And this morning, first of all, he had a big meeting with key allies around Ukraine, with President Zelensky, Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, President Macron of France, Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and others. He then went on to have separate meetings with Macron and Rutte, also with Ursula von der Leyen of the EU, presumably more deep reset that's been promised may emerge down the line. And then he's been meeting the Armenian Prime Minister too, but he's also been speaking, and what I thought was interesting was he's admitted that in Europe we've got behind with spending. He says that Europe has to lead the way, but he's also commented on transatlantic relations and says there's more tension in alliances than there should be. Well, you can say that again.
Catherine, thank you. I've been looking at your Twitter handle today and looking at the pictures you've taken of the world leaders. That you are getting very, very close to them, aren't you? And that's the joy of this event you're at. You really do rub shoulders with all of the world leaders quite a lot, don't you? You're not kept apart.
Yes, it's quite extraordinary because all of these people are used to being the most important person in their country, but here one Prime Minister is just one of about 45 Prime Ministers. And as you're going through the corridors, quite often there is a log jam of people as somebody's running late and literally brushes by other people. So that meeting, pictures that I took in there that you're talking about, all these very important European figures, they were kept waiting for quite a long time by President Macron. He was out on a run earlier. He was talking to some dogs. There's lots of stray dogs around here, and he likes to make an entrance, but when he finally came in, it was so rammed in there that I had to sort of scooch by just to let the French president get past.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, so it is very, because normally these G7 and G20s, you're kept miles away from world leaders. In fact, you don't even see them unless you go to it. Often you can stay away in the media centre. But this EPC, which Macron did invent, is his show, isn't it? So I guess he can be late if he wants to be late. But yeah, it seems to me that it's quite a positive thing, and they are. There's more talking, and as I say, 45 countries are part of it.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and I hope you continue to have a great time there at the conference. And Macron is funny, isn't he? He loves to portray this masculine image. I'm sorry, I've been on the run with some...
Can I say that he's actually a head of state, unlike the Prime Minister?
That's true.
In this weird world these guys work in, if you're a head of state, you outrank Prime Ministers, and that matters. There we are.
So did you say he went for a run and then was talking to some dogs?
Yes, and everyone's like watching their clock saying, where's Macron gone?
Talking to some dogs?
Well, it's not talking to dogs. The dogs can't talk back, even in Armenia, Miriam, but you can stroke them.
I was starting to wonder. Well, I'd love to see some pictures of this. Maybe Catherine can finish us with those later. Well, some breaking news now. Iran's Fars news agency says 2 missiles have hit the US warship near Jask Island, a strategic Iranian port and coastal area on the Gulf of Oman, after it ignored Iranian warnings.
We'll get more on that very serious and potentially very developing news as we get it now. Elsewhere.
Well, moving on to some other breaking news this morning. Princess Eugenie is expecting her 3rd child with husband Jack Brooksbank this summer.
Buckingham Palace said this morning, adding that the King is delighted at the news, and why not?
Well, royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams joins us now. Richard, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Britain's Newsroom. What fantastic news for Eugenie and the royal family.
Yes, very, very happy indeed. The new baby will be 15th in line to the throne and joins brother Ernest and also August. Well, Ernest is 2 and August is 5.
So you said you said they're 15th in line. So some way away. I mean, it's a happy news, I think, for the York family. They've been going through a lot, of course, with the issues involving Andrew and Sarah Mountbatten-Windsor. But this is a positive news, and of course, the whole royal family.
Oh, indeed, yes. And also, they divide their time. I mean, Jack Brooksbank works for marketing for Discovery Land, which is a luxury company in Portugal. And they also have a base in Ivy Cottage. And usually works for Hauser and Wirth, which is an art gallery, and is also involved in several charities. So, obviously, she is not a working royal. And as you mentioned, the York family has indeed been up against it, to put it mildly, in recent months. But this is delightful news. The King has said how pleased he is. And there's a charming photograph. Eugenie has gone back to Instagram, and you can see the ultrasound if you look. And, that's rather a unique way of introducing us to a happy event to come in the summer.
Do you think we can read anything into the family-sized choice of the modern royals? Of course, in the past, royal families tried to have very large numbers of children, but the Queen had 4. But all 4 of her children had just 2 each. And yet this new generation, William and Kate, have had 3. I think Zara Phillips has 3, and now Eugenie's going to have 3. Do you think they're doing their bit for Britain's birth rate?
Well, it certainly sounds like it, because the average, I think, in Britain, I may be wrong, but I think it's 1.2 or something like that. So, yes, you've spotted a trend that I think has escaped most commentators. So we'll see where it takes us with, George, Charlotte and Louis. How many will they have in future years?
And the issue of having more children is something I think Prince Harry has talked about, this, trying to be responsible, not having more than 2 children, I think, from memory. I think that's right.
Yes, he did say that. It was quite some time ago. He said that this would, for the sake of the planet. I do have to say that Harry occasionally gets subsumed with psychobabble.
Occasionally.
But this is really happy news, isn't it? And great news for the King. He's now back in the UK, of course, after that. And I've got to say, it was a triumphant trip last week. I mean, and for me, it was the moment when the King emerged from his mother's shadow, became the King in his own right, when he owned it in the States, didn't he?
Oh, you're absolutely right. This was a tour de force, and he spoke truth to power, and also it was popular with everybody. And so was the Bermuda trip. So, I mean, the state visit, like no other, undoubtedly there were and will continue to be problems between governments, but it's perfectly obvious that President Trump's affection for the royal family is deep, enduring and consistent. It's also obvious that, well, aided by innumerable hands, I suspect, given the excellent jokes and also the very prescient comments, the King can make an amazing speech. And this is an individual who is still battling cancer.
Yeah.
It's almost beyond belief.
Richard,
I thought he did brilliantly.
Are you saying they weren't all his own jokes? Has he got some royal joke writers behind the scenes?
I think that there were many hands involved in a speech like that. It would be a Sisyphean task to rival it if it was just one individual.
Richard, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
OK, time for our brand new Great British giveaway now, and your chance to have a spectacular summer by winning £76,543 and 21p. That's 7654321 in tax-free cash in your bank. Imagine the kind of summer you could have with all that extra money. I can only imagine. I can't enter. But here's all the details you need to have a go.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21p in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21p in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. And coming up next is Labour to blame for the number of youths in their mid-20s claiming benefits. We'll be going through that and more with Mark Field and Matthew Talbot.
There they are. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Give us a wave, guys. There we are. Look at that. Handsome.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Well, some breaking news now. Border Force is responding to more small boat sightings on Monday as almost 900 illegal migrants have crossed since Friday.
For the fourth day running, criminal gangs have launched boats from the shores of northern France.
Gosh, well, we're getting used to these breaking news things, aren't we, Chris, with hundreds of people now crossing in some of these mega boats as our home and security...
Well, the numbers are down compared to the same 4 months of last year, aren't they? I mean, they're down 40% or so, but often weather can be a factor.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're joined now by our panel, political commentator Matthew Torbett and former Conservative MP Mark Field. And shall we just start with that breaking news? I mean, whether numbers are up or down on a particular week, this is a problem now that's been running since 2018 and no government seems capable of solving.
It is incapable of solving, and you know, it's very easy to blame the French, but I mean...
we'll always blame the French.
No, but I think that's slightly unfair to do so. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that they're being paid a lot of money, it is a large shoreline that is very difficult to guard 24/7, and you've got determined people trying to make a lot of misery for us all. But I suppose my view, to be honest, is this is now a national security issue, and we need to bring the Royal Navy involved in this in some form or other.
You sound like a reform UK leader saying
but I think that is true, though. I mean, the trouble is, there's no point just throwing our hands in the air and saying we can do nothing. There are things that can be done.
But the Royal Navy, then, what does the Royal Navy do with migrants if they tow them back to France or leave them in the water and risk their lives? No one wants to do that either. You're putting the Navy in an invidious situation caused by a policy failure. Matthew Torbett, your guy, Keir Starmer, your guy, Labour and the PM Keir Starmer.
Never my guy, Chopper, never my guy.
He's got to sort this out. I mean, and I thought this might be the year that they might deal with it. They're squeezing supplies of engines. That's working a bit.
Yes.
The boats are getting bigger because smaller boats are hard to come by. So the supply lines are being squeezed by what this government's doing, it seems. More money going towards France. A pay-by-results idea, in theory, might work. Shabana Mahmood's idea there.
I think the supply thing appears to be working. I think based on last year, small boats crossings, despite having seen it last 4 days, they're down by about 2/3.
I think for 40%.
40%, OK. And I think that's having... But I think it's much bigger than this. And I think it comes back to me by... There's a lot of talk about the ECHR, right? Mm-hmm. ECHR has overturned 13 asylum cases since 1980. Is it an issue? Yes. Is it the big issue? No, it's not. I think you leave that, the boats still come. You have to look at the 1951 Convention on Human Rights that we signed up to with the UN. That was for a different time. That was for Jews fleeing Germany for good reason and fleeing their own persecution. You're allowed to come to this country by irregular means across the Channel or whatever else if you have a well-founded fear of persecution. That's probably about 2/3 of the world now because of the way the world is. And I think you have to look at going back to the convention and redoing it. You can't leave it because you become an international pariah and everyone leaves it. But what you need is pinch points across Europe, across where people are leaving Syria, Afghanistan, wherever. And you either go to your British embassy or you go to these centres to prove who you are. We've got too many people throwing passports in the Channel and whatever else. And I think that is how you do it, because then if somebody is coming across the Channel, you have to assume they're not genuine because you've had several opportunities on your path to register who you are and why you're fleeing and whether you really are a refugee.
OK. Well, turn to the papers. The Iron newspaper says that the state pension triple lock, that old, the big policy which the Tories came up with...
Well, the coalition, to be fair, actually, in 2011...
You were leading it, and now it's under pressure, it seems, from costing too much, although Reform are committed to it. They say that it's under threat if UK goes to war with Putin, which is some way off, one might hope, but we'll see.
Well, there's a great story that says, don't waste a crisis. And if there is a crisis and we can get rid of this triple lock...
You're against it?
I've always felt that, there was the moment it was brought in, which is now 15 years ago, the idea was to try to bring pensions up to nearer to earnings levels. I think that has been achieved, and evidently it is the single biggest contributor to the huge welfare bill that we've got. And I have to say, again, very few politicians are open about it, but I think privately most think it is not a sustainable thing. Certainly anyone in their 20s and 30s reckons by the time they come to retire, they're not going to have this sort of benefit. And I think that the truth is this: we have collectively not paid in anything like enough to justify what is often said, and I remember as a constituency MP getting old age pensioners saying, I've paid my stamp, I've paid the money in. They haven't paid anything like enough to get the benefits that...
And people are living longer now.
Well, exactly that. And, when the pension system began, most people didn't even make pension age, and those who did maybe lived for 3 or 4 years afterwards. Now, with people living into their 90s and the hundreds, it's simply not sustainable.
I think what's so frustrating, Matthew, is that all of the Western world is under pressure from ageing population because we just haven't had enough children to replace ourselves. But other countries have managed this really well. So, for example, the Swiss system, you do pay into a pot that has your name on it. It does grow, it is invested, and then when you retire, you're withdrawing your own money. Yes. Whereas our system, it's current people of working age that are paying current pensions, which is fine as long as the working age population grows or at least doesn't shrink. But once it starts to shrink, we're in deep trouble.
And we look back at 1960, there was 3 working age people for every 80-year-old. Now we have more 80-year-olds than ever before, and we've got about 1 working age person because of the birth rate crisis that we've got. And that, I'm glad you've mentioned this, because everyone I see moaning about it, which I totally get, people are feeling it regardless of generation. You don't pay into a pot. We have to be clear about this. You don't put in all your life for yourself. I'm paying your pension. You 3 are also paying everyone's pensions. Yeah. Gladly. I think, you know, people deserve a pension, deserve to live in dignity. But, as Mark said, you know, rare moment of agreement, it is utterly unsustainable, and we don't have politicians courageous enough to talk about it.
Just before we go to the news, to you, Mark, food prices to rise by 50% more than the 2021 because of the various crises at the moment.
This is going to be a massive story. And actually, one of the things that I've always felt is, I mean, again, growing up in the 1970s, when inflation went to 25, 26%, it was food inflation. And the issue is when you go to the supermarket and each and every time you take a certain amount of money and you think that will be enough to buy whatever that staple food is, and it's gone up in price, it leads to a lot of disillusionment very, very quickly.
Matthew talked about that's the cost of living crisis biting, and that'll be a problem for Labour.
Of course it will, because I think since COVID, we've got used to governments bailing us out and helping us with things. This is going to be trickier. If you can't afford food, that is a real issue, and actually that's where you get real discontent in society and people going, well, that's you or your fault. But again, it goes back to the last hour. We need some sort of deal or the war to stop in Iran, because a third of the world's fertiliser comes out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Part of the trouble really is the headline level of inflation doesn't reflect what's happening with food inflation. In the last 2 or 3 years, people say they talk about 3.6% or whatever, and it feels a lot more every time you go to a supermarket.
Yes, because if it's something that you don't buy very often, doesn't go up very much, you don't notice that. Whereas if food that you buy every week or several times a week, it's incredibly noticeable, isn't it? Thank you so much. Fantastic panel. Mark and Matthew, appreciate your time this morning.
Great to see you here. Now, here's your 60-second news update with Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. We'll start with some breaking news. An Iranian news agency says 2 missiles have hit a US warship near Yask Island after it ignored warnings to stay out of the Strait of Hormuz. GB News exclusive. Border Force is responding to more small boat sightings on Monday as almost 900 migrants have crossed the English Channel since Friday. The Prime Minister is meeting with more than 40 EU leaders in Armenia, discussing whether to join a £78 billion loan scheme to support Ukraine in its war with Russia. A British tourist is being treated in intensive care in South Africa, and 3 people have died after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. At least 10 people have been taken to hospital after a shooting at a lakeside party near Oklahoma City. Authorities are warning that number may rise as many make their own way there. And Princess Eugenie and her husband, Jack Brooksbank, are expecting their 3rd child this summer. Buckingham Palace say the King is delighted at the news. You're up to date. More for you at midday.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
It's 11:34. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Christopher Hope and Miriam Cates.
Well, it's May Bank holiday today, and one traditional English custom, deeply rooted in celebrating the arrival of summer, is Morris dancing, and we're going to find out much more about that after the break while Chris practices.
I can't wait.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For most, Bank Holiday Monday will be dry, albeit fairly cloudy. However, where we see the sunshine develop, well, we could also see some heavy showers, mainly in the south, but we'll also need to watch out for a weather front pushing down across northern parts of Scotland. Here we could see some more general spells of rain at times through the course of this afternoon. Probably the best of the sunshine through the rest of Monday will be across more southern and central parts of Scotland, the northeast of England, where it will be much warmer than yesterday, and also across more southern counties of the UK. But here, well, with that sunshine helping to lift temperatures up to 19 or 20 degrees, we could see some pretty intense heavy showers developing, particularly later this afternoon and into this evening, and more especially across southwest England. So here we could see the odd rumble of thunder, perhaps some hail mixed in as well. But generally, there will be some dry spells around as well, and probably the best of the sunshine will be around coastal parts of Devon and Cornwall. Further north, many places will have a dry end to the day. A lot of cloud across the Midlands and Wales, but some sunshine for northern England and southern Scotland. Northern Scotland, though, generally much cloudier here. Outbreaks of rain at times and feeling increasingly cool as a north to northwesterly breeze starts to develop. Still some heavy showers in the southwest of England and across the M4 corridor for a time this evening, but those will fade as we go into the early hours of Tuesday morning. So for most, it does turn into a mostly dry night. There'll be a mixture of cloud and clear spells, and we could see one or two fog patches, particularly in the south, later in the night. Further north, where skies are clearest, we could get quite close to freezing in northern Scotland with a fairly keen northerly breeze developing. And here, the showers are likely to turn increasingly to snow as we go through the day on Tuesday, particularly over the higher ground. So a much chillier feel developing, brisk northerly winds, so feeling more like 3 to 6 degrees in the most exposed areas. Quite a chill in the air on Tuesday. Otherwise, a lot of cloud across the country, but some sunny spells developing, and in the sunshine, it should still feel fairly pleasantly warm in the south with highs of 18 or 19 degrees.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the...
Unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11:37. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Christopher Hope, and Miriam Cates.
Well, it is May Bank Holiday. Some of us are working, but hopefully you're not. You're enjoying some time at home with some traditional English customs. But one of those customs, deeply rooted in celebrating the arrival of summer, is Morris dancing.
I love this. Originating around the 15th century, Morris dancing was a symbolic ritual designed to celebrate fertility, community, and the renewal of life.
Well, our reporter Anna Riley joined the Great Yorkshire Morris team in Poole in Wharfdale to find out more.
Morris dancing, a centuries-old English tradition passed down through the generations. Decked in bells, ribbons and creative costumes, Morris dancers leap and twirl to the beat. During the May Bank holiday, the folk dancing is performed in towns and villages across the country. At Poole Village Hall in West Yorkshire, the Great Yorkshire Morris team are practising their steps.
It's part of the thread of our culture. When I started in 1976, there were only about 3 Morris teams in York, the whole of Yorkshire. And we went to a village, the general reaction then was, oh, look at these funny men who were there. We want to keep the traditions alive. Like, we enjoy the practice as much as dancing out. We do collect money and we've got to pay our expenses for the practice hall, but any of the surplus money goes to charities.
Once rooted in ancient fertility rites, Morris dancing now brings people together in music, movement and community. There are more than 12,500 Morris dancers around Britain in single-sex and mixed sides, all keeping the genre going.
The sort of gear that I'm wearing for is, apart from the Yorkshire Flat Cap, this is fairly traditional Cotswold Morris gear. Great Yorkshire Morris do Cotswold. We also do Border Morris, which is from the borders between Wales and England. We also do longsword, which is a Yorkshire tradition, and we do rapper, which is from the northeast. It's been around since the 15th century, and there was a bit of a Victorian reinvention again, but it's just about finding people enjoying themselves.
A living cultural practice with deep historical ties and regional diversity, Morris dancing is here to stay. Anna Riley, GB News, Poole in Wharfdale.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I think
Happy
you're
May
quite
Day.
envious there, Chris,
I
weren't
was.
you?
Happy May Day to all Morris dancers and all of the country watching GB News. I love that. I think it is quite a male pastime, judging on Anna's report.
I mean, I'll try anything once, but it's quite unusual. But then I suppose a lot of traditions are.
Yeah, exactly, and it's made. I saw some kids running around a maypole on social media last week. May Day.
Well, we're talking about how to get kids more active. Maybe they should reintroduce Morris dancing into primary schools. That'd be popular.
Talking of being active, our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, has been active in Armenia. I think we've got her pictures now. This is how close you get to world leaders when you're at these big events. This is the European political community. There we have it. That's her picture of Keir Starmer.
So this is her phone. She's taken... that's
phone,
how close. Mark Rutte,
Mark Rutte,
NATO chief.
Who else is on there?
I think I saw...
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Zelensky.
Mark Carney. Is that Mark Carney?
Yeah,
What's he doing there? I thought this is EU summit. Donald Tusk.
Yeah, talking to Alberto
Poland.
Costa from the European Council. I mean, it is... Yeah, and you do rub shoulders with the world leaders. I mean, I came across Friedrich Merz when I went to the Gents last time. When I asked him, I was at the EPC. So, it's just interesting. I think it's all part of, all part of one continent,
one
maybe.
Happy family.
Not one European Union. Well, there's 45 countries in this, not 28, so it is bigger than the European Union, but it does recognise, I think, shared beliefs, shared cultures, maybe.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I do think it is so important for national leaders to meet each other on the world stage, and relationships are so important. Whether or not people get on with each other has such a bearing on the politics. But on the other hand, you do wonder how many things these meetings do actually decide.
And it was called out the day by the US War Secretary saying they can go and chat as much as they like, but what are they doing to get the oil and gas ships out of Strait of Hormuz?
Exactly, and some of these environmental summits, do you remember in Rio last year, the COP summit, I think something like 45,000 people flew into that, and they failed to meet any resolutions on anything.
But as Churchill said, George is better than war.
Well, that's it,
it's the alternative
but be
to
honest,
fighting.
it's about the relationships, it's about the shared priorities, it's about those private conversations, rather than trying to come out with particular resolutions.
Yes, and Friedrich Merz enjoyed his chat with me in the Gents.
I bet you did.
But moving on, if you want to go to Armenia or somewhere else hot, holiday sun, here's a forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The risk of heavy showers and thunderstorms across central parts of the Mediterranean the next few days. Some heavy rain across Madeira as well on Tuesday. Sunny spells for the Canary Islands. Southern parts of Spain and Portugal seeing sunny spells, but across the north and into France, northern Italy, the risk of some thunderstorms. But sunny spells in Greece and Turkey as well, and temperatures lifting after a cool few days here and staying pleasant over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think if we try to mix what happens in their private lives and the art they produce, we won't have no artists left to listen to, no books left to read. Culture in itself will be dented. We always have to remind ourselves that these people are human. I'm not saying what they've done in their private lives are okay and should be forgotten about. But if we start undermining audiences and think, okay, we can't do any films about them, we can't do any books about them, there's nothing left for us to celebrate. It's always down to an audience member. If they don't like Michael Jackson, no one's forcing you to buy the ticket to go watch his film. There are millions of Michael Jackson fans out there, so why should they suffer just because of these allegations which he was proved not guilty for?
I mean, I know it's not meant to be a documentary. It is a sort of celebration of his very public life, of his stage life, as it were. But you're still not being told the whole story. So are you being hoodwinked?
No, actually, Anne. So what's actually happened, Lionsgate, who have produced the film, they're actually planning a follow-up to this film. So it actually ends when he releases Thriller. So there will be a follow-up to this movie. So let's talk about the allegations now. When he was accused by Jordan Chandler in 1993 of child abuse, he signed a couple of NDAs, Michael Jackson. So the film did want to depict it, but they can't do it because of the NDAs that he signed at the time. And those NDAs actually stand after his death. So it's not that the family haven't wanted to highlight it. I do agree that obviously because the estate made this film can be one-sided, but that side of Michael Jackson's career, they did want to include in the film.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. And a recent poll carried out by UK Hospitality highlights the sheer magnitude of public opposition to the government's proposed holiday tax.
More than 10,000 people were surveyed on whether or not they would support the tax, and results show, perhaps not surprisingly, that more than half of participants voted to be against paying more to go on holiday.
Well, voters even went as far as to say they would punish their MPs at the ballot box if the tax is brought to life.
We're joined now by Alan Simpson, the CEO of Hospitality UK. Alan Simpson, thank you for joining us. Just to explain what this is, because, of course, you do have £1 a night charges if you go to Scotland, Edinburgh, for example. I've been there recently and I was paid charging. But this would be across the UK. And what would the rate be and when might it come in?
Well, we don't know what the rate be. It could be a 5% tax on top of your holiday. It could be £2 per person per night, which could be 100% tax in a holiday park like the one I'm here at Haven in North Kent. But the difference between the UK and France, Germany, Italy, Spain, other countries which in some cities at least have these holiday taxes, is that VAT on a holiday in those countries is 10% or lower. Here it's 20%. So we will be we already are, but we'll be even more by a distance the most expensive place in Europe for a family to take a holiday. And in the middle of a cost of living crisis, I think that's a terrible idea.
Rationale behind this tax, Alan, who is the money going to? Is it central government or local authorities?
No, the plan is to give it to the mayors. The mayors, as we know, local government has had a very difficult few years, but ultimately it'll just get spent on normal spending, and we will find that one of the few sectors which is providing jobs for young people, for providing jobs for single parents, providing jobs for people perhaps leaving school, is going to be taxed into submission. The hospitality sector's lost 100,000 jobs over the last year and a half directly because of the impact of the last two budgets. Oxford Economics say that this holiday tax will cost 33,000 people their jobs as well.
Oh.
It's so hard, I think, in your sector, isn't it? You've got this increasing minimum wage, you've got the jobs tax, you've got this other measures, regulations wrapping itself tightly around your sector, and it's a further blow. And as you say, you think there'll be a lot of jobs going from this if it goes ahead.
Yeah, if you add the 33,000 jobs that this will almost certainly cost us 100,000, you're close to the population of York in hospitality jobs lost in a year and a half. It's an unprecedented hit on one sector. And it's so important to say that that's people's livelihoods. That's 130,000 families who lost their breadwinner. And this holiday tax could be £140 on the price of an average family holiday.
Alan, what is it? What's the justification for it? So the money isn't ring-fenced to a city. It goes back to the Exchequer and may come back in form of grants, but we don't know that. What is the justification?
No, it'll go directly to the mayors. The national government will actually lose money out of this, but there is no justification. Last January, they wrote to us and said, we're not going to do this. In September, they stood up in the House of Commons and promised the country that they wouldn't do it. Within 6 weeks, they'd already somehow written a consultation. I strongly suspect they'd written it before that they said they wouldn't do it. And, you know, as you rightly say, we have polling out today which says that the country hates this. It's absolute tissue rejection. And it's going to cost any party that supports this the next general election. For every one person who says that they'd be more likely to vote for their MP if they support this, 9 people say that they'll vote against. And that includes 40% of Labour Party voters. Okay. I'm looking at a list in front of me of MPs who will lose their seat if this goes through.
OK.
Very interesting. Well, Alan Simpson, good luck with your campaign. Alan Simpson is the CEO of Hospitality UK. I mean, there's just so many disincentives now to holidaying in this country, and we really want people to have more staycations. It's good for the economy. It should be. And
particularly, I think, with the soaring cost of fuel, more will be choosing to have holidays here.
They will. Well, they might be stung by this tax. A few of you getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Lots of disapproval of the Prime Minister's trip to Armenia. Joan says it's your job and what you get paid for is to look after our country, not the EU. Let the EU deal with Ukraine and Russia. It's not our war.
I think he's happier overseas, though, often.
I think it's a good distraction for him, isn't it? Well, Lorraine says, look after your own country first. Stop giving taxpayer money away. I can't wait for the 7th of May. Of course, the elections are coming up.
Yes, there are.
We're going to be very busy on Friday. Well, you're going to be very busy on Friday reporting
through the
on
night and busy all day. But it's a happy news, though, from the royal family today, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
With Princess Eugenie now expecting her 3rd child. We may have a picture of how they announced it on Instagram, which is quite interesting because there you are. There's the other 2 children, is Ernest and August, but they're looking at the ultrasound picture, which is, of course, that is how ordinary families do it. You show the siblings a picture of this developing child within Eugenie's tummy.
And then we know it's due in the summer. Of course, the royal family never share the exact due date, do they? But not too long to wait. And some very happy news for the York family and, of course, the royal family as a whole. And I wonder if this is a renewed trend toward 3-child families, which I very much
we need more children,
as a mother of 3.
Yes.
We do. And
we have 3. There are 3 hopes. No plans for a 4th hope.
Well, about 30% of women now probably won't have children at all, sadly. So
why is that?
All sorts of reasons. That's a whole programme. But it does mean that those who do have children need to have 3 to keep the birth rate up, 3 or more.
Well, we're nearly there. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. It's great to be here.
Yes, really good to have
again.
You. Absolutely will do. Well, we'll see lots of you on Friday, of course, after the local elections. But that's it from Britain's Newsroom.
And up next, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Here's Tom and Nana.
The fog of war obscures the truth in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says they've hit an American ship. America says they haven't. What's the truth?
And Keir Starmer, in the words of Bob Marley, you're running away, but you can't run away from yourself. Well, he's currently in Armenia negotiating God knows what. Well, there are lots of trouble at home, potentially his leadership at risk. We'll be talking about that and much more after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For most, Bank Holiday Monday will be dry, albeit fairly cloudy. However, where we see the sunshine develop, well, we could also see some heavy showers, mainly in the south, but we'll also need to watch out for a weather front pushing down across northern parts of Scotland. Here we could see some more general spells of rain at times through the course of this afternoon. Probably the best of the sunshine through the rest of Monday will be across more southern and central parts of Scotland, the northeast of England, where it will be much warmer than yesterday, and also across more southern counties of the UK. But here, well, with that sunshine helping to lift temperatures up to 19 or 20 degrees, we could see some pretty intense heavy showers developing, particularly later this afternoon and into this evening, and more especially across southwest England. So here we could see the odd rumble of thunder, perhaps some hail mixed in as well. But generally there will be some dry spells around as well, and probably the best of the sunshine will be around coastal parts of Devon and Cornwall. Further north, many places will have a dry end to the day. A lot of cloud across the Midlands and Wales, but some sunshine for northern England and southern Scotland. Northern Scotland, though, generally much cloudier here. Outbreaks of rain at times and feeling increasingly cool as a north to northwesterly breeze starts to develop. Still some heavy showers in the southwest of England and across the M4 corridor for a time this evening, but those will fade as we go into the early hours of Tuesday morning. So for most, it does turn into a mostly dry night. There'll be a mixture of cloud and clear spells, and we could see one or two fog patches, particularly in the south, later in the night. Further north, where skies are clearest, we could get quite close to freezing in northern Scotland with a fairly keen northerly breeze developing. And here, the showers are likely to turn increasingly to snow as we go through the day on Tuesday, particularly over the higher ground. So a much chillier feel developing, brisk northerly winds, so feeling more like 3 to 6 degrees in the most exposed areas. Quite a chill in the air on Tuesday. Otherwise, a lot of cloud across the country, but some sunny spells developing, and in the sunshine it should still feel fairly pleasantly warm in the south with highs of 18 or 19 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change.
From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's